Quilty is brought to you by Baby Lock Sewing and Long Arm Machines. Baby Lock, for the love of sewing. Aurifil. Aurifil Italian thread, perfectly suited for all your quilting projects. Fairfield. Together, we can make beautiful things. Free Spirit. A new generation of creative and playful fabrics perfect for fashions, home decor, quilting, crafting, and more. Hovels Sewing. Cut it close with Hovels. Moda. Make something quilty with Moda fabrics. Thermoweb. Manufacturer of heat and bond adhesives and new luxe interfacings, proudly made in the USA. Hello, Heather Kenyon.
Hi, Mary Fons.
See what I did there? I was like, hello, Heather Kenyon. This is Quilty you're watching. We're glad you're watching. Heather, you and I have different fabric palettes.
We do.
You what's your fabric palette?
I have like the full-on, bright, intense jewel tones.
Kind of like your
sometimes
shirt.
It's kind of like my shirt.
Totally. And I go more muted. You go as kind of a larger scale print, I would say.
Yeah, I like a big print.
And I'm a little smaller scale print. And some quilters really love paper piecing, and some quilters are like, I don't really care for it. You just tried it out.
I just tried it out on this block.
And this is a Wheels in the Sky block. Quilty Magazine, check it out. It'll tell you where to find the pattern, the full pattern. But I like paper piecing. I don't do it all the time because I just don't have enough time to do all the projects I want. But this block is inspiring, and I may just have to make this quilt. It uses great colors. You don't have to have tons of fabrics, but it looks scrappy.
No, yeah.
So we're building this quadrant, okay? This block it goes together in these quadrants here. Mm-hmm. And show me what happens first with paper piecing, Heather.
Well, the first thing you do is print out your paper pieced patterns. And this has both pies, the A pie and the B pie for each quadrant.
Nice.
And you print it out and you make sure that you have measured so that it is the right dimension, because sometimes your printer will like fit to scale.
True.
You don't want it to do.
Don't do that. And then you also need to print a lot of these, however many
Yes.
the pattern tells you, because you're going to sew on the paper. That's what paper piecing is all about. You actually sew onto the paper and then tear it off. If you've never done it before, you may not know that, but that's what you do. You sew through paper. Crazy. So you cut those apart.
Yep, so you get A and B.
Mm-hmm. And we are so here's the idea here. When you you're going to put fabric on the back side of this. Okay, and you can see the lines through your paper. And there's quilter's pattern paper, and there's different paper piecing paper that's a little thinner.
Right. I just used my printer paper.
Typing paper works pretty well. If you're on a budget, don't worry about it. But you won't want to use scrap paper that has anything printed on the back, probably. It might be too hard to see your lines.
It would be really confusing, I think.
Yeah, so you want to keep it, because it can be confusing at first, so keep it simple. So you start, you do it by number.
Right, we've got two A's here, so
Great.
they're identical.
A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, and A6. And that's the order that you put your pieces on, okay? So let's get started, because I think that's the hardest part about paper piecing. So, we need one of these, I believe. So
Yes,
take me through.
We each need one of those.
Yes.
Or one of these.
Yeah, we'll do one.
So, you sew on this front side, but your pattern is going to show up on the back side. So the first step is to take this one, and you want to make sure that it's
you kind of get in your head,
big
okay,
enough,
I've got A1.
and you want to make sure it's big enough to cover.
Right.
Totally covers with seam allowance.
Awesome.
And you flip it over, and you would
Cover it
line
again.
that up so where it needs to be.
Totally.
And then I would usually add a little smidge of glue.
Love a little glue. Washable. Awesome.
And tuck it right back there.
Love it. And then the next piece, this is when you have to do the flip.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, so the first thing you would do is figure out where your sewing line is. So that's A1, that's A2. So my sewing line is right there-ish.
There. Mm-hmm.
So I would line that one up right there-ish. I kind of try to make it so the middle goes to the middle of whatever it's going to flip to.
And what I want to show here, and this is why people's brains melt when they're like, but what are you doing? We're going to sew on this, is that right? Yeah, on this line, and then we flip, or wherever the line is, and we're going to flip this to cover that second piece, okay? So that's why this first piece is kind of funkified.
Right. The first one is the hardest.
It's always the
making
hardest.
sure that you're sewing on the line between A1 and A2 instead of the line between A1 and something else.
In something else. Now you can put a dot of glue here too. I'm going to pin it. You want to pin it on this side because you're going to look at this at your sewing machine. You're going to be sewing on your lines. The lines in the paper piecing patterns are the sewing lines. I don't want to sew directly through my line here. Okay, so pin through it. Okay, so that's how it looks. Got it? Boom, boom. Now we're gonna sew. Heather, can you tell me about the stitch length?
Yes, I shortened my stitch so it was pretty small because I wanted to be able to peel the paper off easily when I'm done, and that's sort of the easiest way to sew through all the layers and hold everything secure and then get the paper off easily. If you have a big stitch, the paper is not going to want to come off in one piece, and that's a mess.
And your stitch could get torn out, right?
Yes.
Because you're pulling on it. You want to
Yes.
keep it, when paper piecing, you want to keep it really, really stiff. I mean, really tight. Okay, I sewed between A1 and A2. I really like the machine that has the automatic cut. I mean, is that great for paper piecing?
Makes it a lot easier.
Or what? Okay, we're gonna bring it back over to the table. Got that sewn, and then we fold it back. Now, I just finger press, is that what you did? Or did you iron? Did you take it?
I ironed, but I used a dry iron.
Okay, yeah.
And just hit it a little bit to help hold it in place.
Because you don't want your paper to get wet, you know? It's just like no steam because you don't want that. So you would give that a press. Why don't you just do that real quick? And what we're gonna do is show you how to set up the next piece, okay? Because it's like the first piece and the second piece are really kind of the tough ones. And then once you have that, you really go to town.
Yeah, because you just sort of repeat the same piece. So there's a slightly smaller of the first print.
Okay, and you're going to...
You're going to flip this
you go.
guy that way.
Yep.
So you want to line him up here.
Right, and then, once again...
Flip him over in.
There's just a lot of flipping, and once you have it down, you're good. So then I sew between A2 and A3 and continue. So we've got these all going here. Got this here. So let's just pretend we've got the steps. Take us through what you've got here.
So this one has sewn that one we just laid down. Then you would add the white block and pull over, which is pulled over on that one. And then that colorful slice goes long ways here and goes over this way.
Fabulous.
You might want to trim that before you add that one so you don't get a lot of bulk in your seams.
And we're going to trim in just a second to show you what we mean.
And then you add your last piece, which on the A blocks is this plaid, and on the B blocks, and I made a little B block up to that point too, so you can see, is the plain, the solid white.
You know what I'm going to do? We're going to sew one more because I want to show trimming. Okay?
Sure.
So I'm going to flip this over.
We could
That
also
one?
just peel this one and
Oh,
do
is
the
that
trimming.
one? Okay, great.
It's ready for a big trim.
Oh, that's right. Okay, why don't we do that? So I want to show you how to trim this stuff as you go. I'm just going to grab this little rotary cutter right here. It's handy. Let me grab my ruler. Trim that for
The
us,
nice thing
Heather.
about using really small stitches is that you can trim. And I have not quite as fancy a machine as Mary at home, so I sewed a little bit past, which is fine. It pulls out really easy.
She's shown this. I want to make sure Matt gets this before we slice it off.
Right.
She sewed a little bit past the line.
Right, which you can then pull up when you go to fold on your stitch line.
Okay.
And then you'd flip it over to, I would flip it over to this side, and
You want to be able to see your paper, right?
Right.
So you'd want it like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I would.
Sure.
Don't you think?
I sometimes would just use my actual seam and then use a 1/4 inch as my seam, but you can also just line this up with the paper.
Okay.
And then,
And we trim a little bit as we go just to reduce bulk.
actually, I want to line it up a 1/4 inch from the paper.
Great.
Otherwise, you have a big problem when you go to put it back.
A little short, yeah.
And there they all come apart.
Lovely.
I might need a little extra.
Punch. Right, so you reduce bulk that way, and that just kind of keeps things, keeps things from getting too crazy at the sewing machine. So let's take another look at our block before we leave, and we will, we can see now as you make these little guys, that's the A piece. You kind of have these little arrows, these little flying guys, and they go together to make the quadrants. The quadrants go together to make the block. And it's really, do you think you'll do paper piecing again?
Yes, I think I will. I think I have a project where paper piecing will make my block better than regular piecing would.
It's super precise, and it's fun. It's just really fun. So thanks, Heather. Once again, just awesome to have you on the show, and keep doing those jewel tone quilts. I love them. I love them.
Thanks.
Bye.
Quilty is brought to you by Baby Lock Sewing and Long Arm Machines. Baby Lock, for the love of sewing. Aurifil Italian thread, perfectly suited for all your quilting projects. Fairfield, together we can make beautiful things. Free Spirit, A new generation of creative and playful fabrics perfect for fashions, home decor, quilting, crafting, and more. Hovels Sewing. Cut it close with Hovels. Moda. Make something quilty with Moda fabrics. Thermoweb. Manufacturer of heat and bond adhesives and new luxe interfacings, proudly made in the USA.